Hello my friends and welcome back to EVE Online with me, Mark from Dadex, and today we're going to have a little lurk around in Lowsec in the Algos and see how we get on. We're going to just check on the belts. There's not a lot around in this system. I'm actually having a look for clone soldier transporters. Their tags are worth about 20 million at the moment, which is good. But I'm actually scanning whilst I'm going from belt to belt. I'll do a little bit of light ratting. I want to try this spit out anyway, particularly on the bigger rats. I've not tried it. It's a blaster Algos because we need that DPS to take out those clone soldier transporters before they take us out. Or somebody joins us on the belt, of course. Now the idea behind this spit is, as I said, primarily to take out the clone soldiers. We've got a core probe launcher fitted, as I had with the cormorant I showed you a while ago. It's really about maximising what we get done in our time in Lowsec. So if I can get to some belt ratting and some scanning at the same time, and bear in mind there's no one else in local at the moment, so I've got a little bit of spare mental capacity, shall we say, because the D-scan would come first if there was anyone else in local whilst I was ratting, or I might go and hide in a safe spot if I thought they might actually be looking for me. Who knows? We're flying a reasonably cheap fit. We'll have a look at the details of it later on. So if it all goes wrong, it's never a big disaster. But when you get the loot, stash the loot, and then it doesn't really matter. So this is just to make some money, because making money has always been important in EVE, of course, but increasingly important, partly because the changes to battleships, I'll talk about a little bit in a moment, and the capital ships in terms of their build requirements and therefore costs, are going to mean I'm going to be spending more money. And B, because the price of the subscription to the game is going up. You must have heard about that. Although I haven't seen it expressed in pounds sterling. It's in dollars on the website. I've seen it in euros. But if somebody can just confirm, because I haven't had time to look, because I've been quite busy the last couple of weeks, hence no video, for which I apologise, what the changes are for pound sterling. I assume it's going to go from, what is it, $11.99 to about $16.99? Because it seems to be 30% in euros and dollars. But we'll talk a little bit more about the detail of that again. We also had the hunt event, and this year I didn't make any videos of me running it because I had problems running it. They changed the hunt event site this year in a very fundamental way, which for me, from the point of view of how I enjoyed the event, kind of messed it up. And that was simply that by putting some loot, or the potential of quite good loot, in that first room where you didn't need a key, a lot of people were just going up there in a pretty powerful ship, clearing that room very quickly, maybe getting a loot drop, at least getting whatever it was, a 600,000 ISK overseas belongings. And then I'd come along looking for a mad crazy site to throw my little frigate into and find it half done. So I was doing very well, I must say, on the ISK front of just going in, killing the jackdaw and the status tower, because that was all we really needed to do in the second room, and grabbing that loot. But because it just meant that people didn't have to participate to the extent of getting keys, either by buying them off people that had got them if they wanted to save some time maybe, or going and getting them themselves, which was not exactly labour intensive. Yeah, they could just pop up and maybe get a little bit of loot. So, as I say, from the ISK point of view, it made me get quite good loot off of running half the event, so it saved me a lot of time. But in terms of me having those, you know, just pushing my luck in those alpha fits, showing you what can be done in little ships, and encouraging you to give it a go, because, you know, learning how to deal with things going wrong is best done in reasonably expected and controlled circumstances, rather than randomly, say, on a Lowsec belt or a gate. Yeah, it just lost that side to it, so I guess they made the event more inclusive for the community as a whole, but kind of ruined it for nutters like me who just wanted to see how close they could get to losing their ship, but actually managed to get through. Anyway, let's have a look at this Algos fit now. There's nothing magical about it. In fact, it is a conversion straight over from the fit that I was using on the hunt. All I've done is switch the railguns over to blasters. I've got a micro warp drive so I can close range on the clone soldier very quickly. I've kept the capacitor battery because we want a bit of capacitor. We need a Weber to slow the clone down. It's also useful both on the hunt and just in general. Drone damage amplifier, damage control, and a Tech 2 armor repairer. Don't really need a Tech 2 one, but I've got one. Rig wise, we've got 2 auxiliary nano pumps to increase the amount of reps we get from the repairer, and 1 hybrid collision accelerator to increase the DPS. Then I've got a flight of Hornets in the drone bay, and I've got 3 Caldari Navy Vespers and 1 Navy Hobgoblin, just for a little bit of a mixture. The plan is to try out which mixture of drones is the best. I had the Caldari Navy Vespers handy. They're also the tankiest of the medium drones. The Navy drones are tankier even than the Tech 2 drones. So I'm thinking maybe 3 of them and a light drone against the clone soldier might be the quickest way of taking it down, and then obviously I get in there with the blasters and finish it off. I've got the loot inside from a previous bit of ratting, so I will remember to drop the loot off before I go back out. That is a key thing for working in Lowsec. Make sure you don't carry too much loot. It doesn't take long out here for the loot in your hold to be worth more than your fit. So by going down with looting, you kind of defeated the objective. You're constantly dropping off your loot at a station and then clearing your loot out when you've checked it out and things are quiet, or you just feel a little bit safer. Then you will guaranteed pretty much make profit coming into Lowsec and doing a little bit of belt rat, if nothing else, just learning your way around in a pretty cheap ship, like this destroyer right here. So we're getting 362 DPS with the close range void ammo in the blasters. It'll be switched to null, which gives us a range of about 5.8 kilometers. We're dropping to about 270 odd DPS, but that is more than enough to crack a clone soldier, beat his tank. All we got to do is get there to apply the damage before he can blow us up. That's the trick of it. Hopefully we can find one and show you how well it goes in an Algos, because I've not tried it actually. Not in a 0.2 system, not with the clone soldier transporter that is going to web us while we're trying to do our work. All in all, the fit comes in at about 20 million, but at current prices the first clone soldier transporter tag we get will pay for that. Just checking out the guys in local, as you should always do. At least see how old they are, check their security status. It's not a cast iron guarantee of anything, but it's better than knowing nothing. I've managed to scan down a Serpentis lookout, so I'm going to go and have a look, really just to put this fit through its paces. Basically, there's a Shadow Serpentis spawn that could drop good loot. It's quite rare, but we'll go and just plod on through that in the background. Well, firstly we talk about the changes to the ship build for battleships, capital ships, and a selection of faction ships from cruiser upwards. A couple of frigates, but not many. Basically, they're changing the build requirements in terms of components to those ships, which will make the ships cheaper to build and therefore bring prices down. Now that has a negative effect on the people who have trained and invested in their blueprints, etc., to build those components. But hopefully that'll be compensated by the uptick in volumes, which you could probably expect, because I certainly know that here in Lowsec, battleships have been a much rarer sight since the changes put their prices up. They've come out of the woodwork a little bit more since they got some of their tank back, and now they're going to get a bit cheaper too, hopefully. I haven't really seen that reflected in the market yet. I did just buy a Dominic's this week to run some level 4s and try out sentry drones. That was still about 320 million for the Dominic's whole window Dixie. But the prices will come down. Capital prices will come down. A lot of faction ship prices should come down. I've only seen, I think it's the Skybreaker and one of the Triglavian frigates come down as a frigate in that faction blueprint change. So unfortunately, it's not going to apply to the likes of the Daredevil, the Dramiel, the Gamur, etc. Now hopefully an upside for me and for Lowsecers is that those of us that catch the Mordus and get their blueprint copies, at least the Orpheus and the Barghest blueprints should go up in value. And let me remind you that the value of a Barghest blueprint copy dropped from around 700 million to under 200 million because of those industry changes putting up the build costs. It made the blueprint copies worth much less, and that was a big revenue stream, certainly for me and for many Lowsecers, and we just compensated for that drop by doing other stuff to make the money. We ran a lot of 6 out of 10s actually, just to top up the coffers. But that is the gist of the changes. They're going to be cheaper to build, so hopefully cheaper to buy. Yeah, a bit of hard luck to those that did invest quite heavily in getting those components and the blueprints, etc., ready for market. But if you over specialize, it can go wrong. I've seen it happen in real life with disastrous consequences. But anyway, that's it for the changes. Hopefully more battleships, more capitals. We will bring you a capital video one day. And of course, if any of that isn't quite right, or you know more, which is easily done, let me assure you, leave it down below in a comment. Of course, leave your in-game name and you'll be included in the skin giveaway. We'll talk about that at the end of the video today. Well, we're just finishing off the first room of the lookout. Now, ideally for running sites, clearing refuges and hideaways, which you do, you could get a Shadow Serpentis spawn, but you really want escalations to a 3 out of 10 for those. You'd normally run rail guns and an afterburner instead of the micro warp drive. The rest of the fit is pretty sound. You wouldn't need Tech 2 of anything to run those sites. You don't really need Tech 2 to do Lowsec belt ratting. As I showed you in another Algos vid, I'll try to remember to link above. But I've come back with the blasters to try it in a point 2 because the value of the clone soldier tags escalates quite dramatically from a point 3 system to a point 2 system. So the second room's quite busy. It's in groups, but the second room of a lookout, to be honest with you, once you get the 2 destroyers that spawn in here, you kill those 2 destroyers and the Shadow Serpentis rat spawns straight away. But although there's a lot of rats in here, just deal with them as individual groups. Don't just fly in and aggro the whole lot, unless you're in a very tanky ship, you're feeling confident and you want a bit of a laugh. But as you can see, the groups are quite scattered around. Use your view, use your grid, and have a little plan. Try to only lock up rats in the same group and minimise the spread of the aggro around the room, and that's about it really. Anyway, next thing to talk about, the changes to the subscription prices. Probably the biggest news, bigger even than my disappointment with the hunt, maybe. Now obviously any price rise is a negative, especially if you can't visibly see what you are getting that justifies it, or what does justify that increase. And I have seen some comments out there on the Facebook, etc., saying stuff like, oh, you know, the rent's gone up, petrol's gone up, gas has gone up, blah blah blah. What a stupid time to put the price of Eve up. But obviously it's the price of everything we need to live on going up that forces the price of stuff that might seem a little bit more indirectly affected by the present situation to put their prices up as well. That's how inflation works, and having lived and worked on an island myself back in the 90s, that was Grand Cayman, I know that Iceland's an island too, and the cost of everything having to be imported is actually very impacted by rises in fuel prices, etc. You know, and those guys have got to eat, keep the lights on. It takes a lot of electricity to power all those computers keeping this game running. All those prices have gone up. I will make another video going into the detail of it. I would like to include any feedback or ideas from you guys, so please leave comments. Again, leave your in-game name. You'll be entered into the skin draw too. And we'll have a bit of a chat about that, because I've got a plan of how to beat the price hike, and I don't think it's a very cunning plan. I don't think it's a very challenging plan. The basis of the plan is to pay some subs some months, and to have during those months made enough ISK to buy some Plex for the other month here and there. So we'll talk about that in more detail, because I don't think that is hard to achieve if you know where to look. And you put a little bit of work in. Grinding to pay your Plex every month is a grind, especially to get it going. And I don't think Eve is very fun when it basically turns into a job. That's from personal experience. CCP have promised an enhanced Omega experience, so let's see if they live up to that. We'll see what they have to say at FanFest, what announcements are made there before we probably make that video. So any comments or feedback, I mean, keep it polite, obviously. I know it's quite an emotive subject. As you saw there, that Shadow Serpentis spawn dropped me junk. But we have found the clone soldier. But yeah, the price hikes are real. It's a thing. We'll talk about it in more detail. I don't think there have been price changes for a long time. But back to the action here. I've landed on a belt 71 kilometers away from a clone. But this is still a dangerous place to be. So I'm having a quick look around trying to find an asteroid. I'm trying to right click on one up there. An asteroid to bookmark to warp back to, so I don't have to close so much distance to the clone soldier, because I won't make it, not even with the micro warp drive. As you'll see, he'll start hitting me now quite hard. I've managed to find one near him on the overview. There you go. I'm going to bookmark that asteroid, warp away to another belt, and then come back and get him. Hopefully we'll be close enough to pounce right on him. That's the plan anyway. So while I do that, I'm going to double the speed of the footage because there's nothing interesting about it. The footage earlier on was all sped up to 150%, which I'm sure most of you are used to. That's what I do just to get through stuff that I'm not really narrating about or paying much attention to, as with the lookout and the general bit of errating. Just my last comment on the price hike, to put it into perspective, the only time I've not played Eve since I've started playing Eve was when I basically couldn't afford to pay the subscription. It was so low down on the list of priorities, it didn't happen. And Alpha Clones just didn't exist yet, so I've been that guy. So I know that $5 is not always an insignificant amount of money, I assure you. But we've landed back on grid with the clone at 27 kilometers, which is fine. We could have been closer, but we're not. I'm going to click approach and fire the micro warp drive, but immediately click off to the side of the clone so we don't fly straight at him. I click approach just to quickly get the ship just moving and immediately navigate to where I want to be. Now we're in nice and close. The drones are already on him. I put out the 3 mediums and the 1 light. Let's see how they get on. Now we're in close. We can get our orbit on. We need to get our web on him because he's going to web us when he can. Although, if you actually look, I don't take any aggro. The drones don't seem to take any damage. So he's just concentrating, as you can see, in fact, in the footage. He's shooting at the drones and missing them. But on that run-in, even if you released your drones from kind of quite a long drone control range, medium drones, there's a good chance he'd wreck them before they got there. So this method of making sure you land as close as possible is the safest way. You can't just sit and kite a clone soldier, not in a destroyer, not in an Alpha destroyer. Obviously I know you can. This is just an open belt. You could be here in a Drake and really not care. So we're not there, but that's not where we're looking today. So it's just round and round the clone soldier. I'm keeping a bit of an eye on the old D-scan because we're not completely alone in local. So I am ready to run if possible. If that means abandoning the drones, I might just abandon the drones. It depends on the situation. My ship is worth a lot more than the drones, that's for sure. But there's the clone soldier. There's his tag. That was nice and quick. That was all obviously at 100% speed. That was real time, me taking him down. The drones are safe, I'm safe, we've got the loot and we're out of here. So we put the loot away somewhere safe. That is our ship paid for. Sorted. It's not a bad business plan, is it? And in terms of current Plex prices, which a month's worth of Plex is now 1.6 billion I've seen, we'd need to kill 80 of those clone soldier transporters a month and safely get their tags to market. That's not a huge amount, but I think there's a even lower impact way. So if you look at the price of Plex and think about buying it in game and how what you do could contribute to that, you can look at ways of cutting the cost. So there he is, all nice and clean, ready for his next adventure. Anyway, my friends, I'm going to leave it left now. There'll be another video up very soon before FanFest. I'll also be looking at what's going on at FanFest and probably dropping you some updates on that in case you don't have time to catch the news yourselves. Remember, leave your comments down below, please, with your in-game name. Skin-wise, I've been hanging out for us to get the May content creator skins. They haven't arrived yet. I've definitely got Kestrel skins to give out. If the new skins arrive within the next 2 or 3 days, which I expect they probably will, I may surprise you with one of those if you win in the draw. If you'd really like a Kestrel skin, let me know in your comment. Otherwise you may get a surprise. I don't even know, they haven't told us what the next skin is yet. Subscribe if you want some updates on what's going on with the channel, and also click on that notification bell so you get an alert when the videos come out. And leave it a like if you have liked and enjoyed it, because that helps more people to get to know the videos are out there, and I hope you will find them useful. But for now, take care of yourselves and each other. Let's think about some ways to make some money so we don't have to pay extra for our subs really, and we have some fun making the ISK. We'll talk soon, fly brave, and goodbye.